So we have John Thomas with us, man. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. So you were telling me earlier you were on a beach last week.
Yes. Well, since all of our international travel was canceled, we ended up just doing a drive. We flew into Miami and drove down to Key West and back and stayed in Marathon and Key Largo.
Nice.
And, did a little snorkeling, rode a glass bottom boat, tooled around Coconut Grove, which was one of the first towns in the South Florida to develop back in the 1920s. And the developer of that town was kind of Spanish revival kind of architecture. So a really interesting town just by itself. It's kind of a suburb almost of Miami. So, tooled around there for a while and then, did some beach stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love Miami. I love the Keys. The Keys are like the most different place in America to vacate. I mean, it's so chill. It's such a different place compared to any of the other beach towns. I mean, it's just a different vibe there. I love it. Yeah. So you got to do some snorkeling. How was that?
Pretty good. I went up and bought this crazy mask that covers your whole face, so you look like a real frog man. And
there you go. That's it. What other kind of traveling you've done? We got names on all our doors. You said I've been there. I've been there.
Been to most of your doors. My mother put a crazy bug in my wife's ear many years ago and said, "Do all of your traveling while you're young enough that you don't have to call your cardiologist and your rheumatologist and all of that." So my wife's been putting at least one, sometimes two international trips on the docket for a long time now, and we had our Scotland and our Moscow, Baltic cruise with a stop in St. Petersburg and on to Moscow, canceled last year. So Key West was the best we could do.
That's not bad. If that's the worst, if that's the worst you can do, you're in a good spot. Yeah, that's awesome. So is real estate is that the thing that's been able to travel you so well over the years? Is this a second career? Tell me about that.
Well, I moved to Atlanta in 1994 with no job. I had managed a manufacturing company for about 10 years before that. The people who sold me my house called me up one day and said, "Hey, are you happy doing what you're doing?" And I had just picked up a job selling life insurance.
Sure.
With no network at all in the Atlanta area. So that wasn't
easy
exactly
gig,
fun.
huh?
Yeah. So I said, "Well, what do you got in mind?" They said, "Well, why don't you come over and run our office?" Since I had, run a decent-sized company back in Chicago, where I'm from.
What'd you do?
We made accessories for the RV and boating industry.
Cool.
And so I traveled around the country. We had distributors all over the place. Anyway. So I came in and started running their office and got my license and then became a buyer's agent and created a team and did that whole thing. And luckily during the downturn, I kind of stumbled upon doing what we call broker price opinions, which is the banks that are foreclosing property. They call on an agent to go out and see if anybody's still living there, kind of do an appraisal on the property, hence the broker price opinion, and then help the bank kick those people out.
Sure.
So unfortunately, during the downturn, I survived pretty well. Just working I ended up becoming the Wachovia, one of the listing agent. So when we foreclosed and had to put the properties back on the market, we did that for the Wachovia until they got absorbed into Wells Fargo, who had their own people.
So you're the house repoer.
I am.
You were the house repoer.
But they kind of got to a point where they were offering cash for keys for people. So they would say, "Hey, we know, you got to, move on with your life. We'll give you X thousands of dollars if you willingly move out."
Right.
So, it kind of eased the pain for those folks.
Of course, yeah. It gives them a little bit of a nest egg to go get a rental or something to get back on their feet.
Yeah.
A lot of people had to do
that kind of kept, me going through the downturn. And, over the years I had accumulated some rental properties and eventually sold those. When my wife retired, she started hearing, the problems with rentals, our own and the ones that I managed for other people. And she became more of a pain in the butt than the tenants.
Than the renters?
So I just said, "Hey, we're done with that."
Let's sell and put it in our bank, right?
That's right.
Go to Moscow.
So, yeah, I mean, and, I've been lucky enough and maybe, smart enough to, keep the debt to a minimum over the years. So, I'm living a debt-free lifestyle and kind of did the Dave Ramsey kind of thing.
Sure.
And, keep it.
My wife
keep it
loves
real.
Dave Ramsey, man. She loves him. So what are you doing now? Are you selling new? Are you buying?
Well, it's an interesting time right now.
It is.
With interest rates, insanely low, and probably, going to be there for a while in spite of what, the inflation fears. I think there's not going to be, even though there's a lot of money being printed, there's not a lot of inflationary demand with the aging population. So I don't know that inflation is going to go insane like some people are thinking. But
no, I think it's the volume game in America these days. That's what look, you've forgotten more than I know about real estate probably, but I don't think it's going to go up because it's bad for business to go up.
Exactly.
So they're going to stay low. And I say low, relatively low, because as the mortgage rates go, 5% is not high.
Yeah.
Like right now, people are like 5%, but my mom and dad paid 20%.
I know.
On their house
my first
in the 80s.
house was at 18%.
Yeah. So as history goes in the mortgage rate, it's prime is 5% is not that much.
Yeah.
So people can still afford 5, and they can still afford that.
Yeah, and so the buyers are having a hard time right now just because they're into multiple offers. I had one just a couple weeks ago before I went to the Keys, where we were one of 11 offers, and luckily enough, I knew enough techniques to win that.
Usually,
bid.
the technique is more money, though.
It is, but there's ways to do it, and to structure the offer. It's not just the dollars, but it ended up being pretty much just the dollars.
That's right.
And I do work with a number of builders, and they're, which is almost a conspiracy right now because the cost of materials is skyrocketing. And I watched a YouTube video the other day, which is a recent video, and a guy lived up in Vermont, and he was driving by a train yard, which is got lumber stacked up, like 10 stories high, but all of it, but there doesn't seem to be any in the marketplace for builders.
I have a friend that owns a drywall company, and he said the same exact thing 2 weeks ago to me. He's like, "This wood crisis is bullshit." It's basically what he said. He goes, "This is weird." He said, but again, if you want to sell more old houses and not build new ones, you drive the price on the wood up, and then you sell more old houses because it costs more to build than it does to. And when we built our house 7 years ago, it was almost the exact same price to buy to build. So we was like, well, we'll build a new one. It'll be ours, but now.
So the big builders, they buy options on lumber, and so there's some arbitrage happening there. So those guys can continue on. It's kind of the small to medium sized builders,
but they're not passing it through.
They're starting to pass it through. Sure, yeah. they keep it market driven. So
there you go.
But in the rest of my world, I was, like I said, I was been in the business since '97, and. So with RE/MAX for 22 years, 3 years ago, I switched over a company that not a household name yet, even though it's EXP Realty, and we have been the fastest growing real estate brokerage company in history, surpassing both RE/MAX and Keller Williams in their growth years. So, yeah, when I started 3 years ago, we had 5,000 agents, and now we're in 13 countries and have over 50,000 agents. So it's been a really interesting change for me.
Sure.
And EXP is interesting in the fact that we were kind of positioned perfectly for COVID because the company was founded during the 2008 downturn. And the founder of the company was with another company and he had been with AOL doing some things with them previous. And he said, the internet is now mature enough that we can do all this from home. Mm-hmm. So EXP's been a totally virtual company since 2008. So we don't even have a corporate office.
Right.
We've got 50,000 agents and 1,000 support staff, and they all work in a virtual reality environment.
But you still have people out on the streets showing houses.
Well, yeah.
But how are those like Redfin and those type true virtual real estate people doing?
Well, real estate is a belly to belly kind of business. So we're even though our corporate structure is completely virtual, because when I go to the office, I click a little link on my computer, my avatar pops into a virtual reality world, and I go in and I talk to my cartoon broker,
Sure.
And my cartoon tech support people, and my cartoon processing people. But, every company is still out there, showing houses
Sure.
and meeting people and signing paper listing agreements and that sort of thing. Now, there is the online, the institutional buyer kind of thing where people sell their house for cash.
Yeah.
So that thing is happening. But, people have to realize that when they're selling their house for cash,
They're not going to get as much.
yeah, they get, 30 to 40% less than they could if they put it on the market.
Awful.
So it's they don't necessarily tell you that.
Yeah.
And
So how much are you working these days? I mean, you're traveling a lot. Do you work full 40-hour weeks? Are you still grinding hard?
Well, as I said, I work mostly from home, and our company is virtual, so I spend a fair share of my time mentoring newer agents and recruiting. So I have about approaching 100 agents that are my business partners, and that's another thing about EXP. We're also interesting in that we're a publicly traded company, but all of our agents get stock in the company.
Sweet.
And so it's I'm an associate broker, and I was when I was with Remax also. But I never had my own office. But the EXP business model allows me to sponsor agents into the company, and I override some of their commission. So I'm I'm still working with buyers and sellers. Working with some
But most of your
right
stuff
now.
is training internally, the people that are going out there, and like you said, belly to belly.
Yep. That's most of what I'm doing now. Because my wife's like, hey, retire already. I'm
Right.
like, what am I going to do? Sit home and hold your hand all day?
Yeah. No, I'd want to work too, just because I want to be busy. But how do you teach your guys because that's the most important part is that training model of all these huge brokerages is how do you make them better than the other realtor? How do you train them to be better?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm in the process right now of putting the finishing touches on a new agent training course. And when new agents get their license, they've learned enough of real estate law to get their license handed to them, but they really don't necessarily know how to do the real estate business. And I tell them that their first job is lead generation, so they have to get out and start communicating with their sphere of influence and using, and I try to help people use the free tools, YouTube,
Networking
Facebook,
groups, all that,
networking, to get the word out about their, them being in the business.
Yep.
And a CRM is an agent's best friend.
Oh yeah.
Because if you don't communicate with your people on a regular basis, they forget who you are and what you do. Because 85% of buyers and sellers say they would use their agent again, but less than 20% actually do because they don't even remember who they are.
Well, it's out of sight, out of mind, and we use a CRM called Pipe Drive in our merchant business, and all those guys are on. I was like, look, if you want your life to be easier in 2 years, you do the Pipe Drive correct right now. You do your CRM correct right now because you don't have to work as hard in 2 years. And it's exactly what you're saying. If people are turning over houses, I think I heard a realtor say 3 to 5 years now. They're moving every 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
That's correct? That's correct. So if you're doing that, then you got a repeat customer in 3 years. So that means if you've built up enough people and you've sold 20 houses this year, that means in 3 to 5 years, those same 20 houses should be sold again. So you're building. So that means in the third year, if you're gaining 20 more houses every year, you should be selling 80 houses in the fourth year, correct?
Yeah, that can work that way.
Because you're selling 20, 20, 20, and then you're gaining another 20. That's a lot of houses to be sold, I think.
And, the beauty of a CRM and the technology that's out there today is, and I teach my people, you have to have the hour of power every day.
Sure.
Where the first thing you do after you get up and you hydrate and you exercise and you pray, meditate, whatever your thing is, you go out there and you sit down in front of your computer and you look at your CRM and you say, who am I communicating with today? And, how can I enhance that communication? Because you can look on their Facebook and you can look them up in Instagram and LinkedIn and have a conversation about, oh, hey, I see you've got a new grandchild, or I see you just got a promotion at work, and just how's that affecting your life? So you can use the technology of internet marketing. Internet marketing,
All the social too.
Yeah, all the social stuff to stay in touch, on a pretty personal basis with the people who already know, like, and trust you.
Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of them are using the send out card stuff where they automatically sending them once a year to stay in sight and mind. that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, because that obviously the EXP that's more important to them, training them right at first to sell more houses, because a lot of these other brokers, their training is not wonderful. It's like, hey, throw them against the wall, see who sticks.
Yeah, oftentimes it's, hey, you've got your license and you've signed up with us. Here's a phone book. Start calling people.
Oh my God.
And there are several brokerages out there that have really built themselves on their training programs. But sometimes they train you, but they charge you for the training.
Sure.
So
as that's worth money too, though, sometimes. So
yeah.
It's a business model, right?
But nobody makes money unless somebody sells something.
That's right.
You gotta get kind of get them started right and build good habits. And cold calling is people in our industry we call there's something called door knocking, where you just go into a neighborhood and you knock on every door and introduce yourself,
and it works.
And it does, but that was almost impossible during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had to kind of do virtual door knocking in a variety of ways.
Well, you're sitting here because of that. You're literally sitting here doing a podcast because COVID happened. So you have to make your moves, and you have to get busy, and some things are not going to work and some things will, but you still have to do it.
Yeah. And even I'm 66 years old and I've been doing real estate for 27 years, but I really almost every day I'm working on something brand new. Which keeps life interesting in a variety of ways, because there's all newer technologies, new techniques. Since I have a growing team of people that I've brought into our company, and I mentor people from other companies as well, I just try to be on top of what's happening in the marketplace and just in the world, and in a variety of industries, just so so many things can be cross-purposed, saying, wow, I never thought of doing something that way. I try to stay in touch with what's happening out there.
Relevant, yeah. You have. It seems like you have a pretty good handle on all the social, all the networking type stuff. So that's good, because you have to. That's my thing when I tell all my reps in the merchant game. I'm like, you got to do it all. You got to do it all. And some people are going to be better at this entity of marketing. Some people are going to be better at this entity, but you still have to do it all. You got to put your name on every social platform. You got to, put your name in the local business, because local. If I don't know if you're a football fan, but are you a football fan?
Well, having been in real estate for a long time, I spent a lot of my times on the weekends working. So, unfortunately, though I was a football fan and still enjoy the game, I don't get a chance to watch as much as I did.
There was a coach. I think he was in the 70s, 80s. I can't remember his name. It's off the top of my head, but he was at the University of Miami, and he's kind of one that turned the program around. He didn't get all the success, but he drew a box like under Orlando and then around the things. Said, we're not leaving here. We're not leaving this area. We're going to recruit everybody from this area. We're not going to go out of state. We're not even going to go North Florida. So they got all the players from that, which were the best players in America in football, and still are some of the best players, high school players. So that's where he recruited. So if you drew a square, I think a lot of real estate agents spread themselves too thin. And they're going to, and especially in Atlanta, you're like, go to Lithonia and sell, and then go to Dallas, Georgia and sell, and then go to Ackworth, and then go to Marietta, and then go out here. If you drew a box around it and just said, I'm going to dominate this area, I think you do better doing that.
Well, I'm teaching sort of a technique which I learned from somebody else, which is kind of pick your town or geography and kind of make that your own. And create primarily, and I tell people, whether you use Apple or Windows or whatever your thing is, to embrace Google.
Sure.
And start with a YouTube channel and say, hey, I'm going to be the expert of, Boise, Idaho. So you start doing videos about Boise, Idaho, which the search engines, Google owns YouTube. So the more stuff that you do in the Google ecosystem, so you start doing videos about your town. And then you create a little website about your town. And then inside of that, you have a blog about your town. And within that, you can do kind of what you guys are doing here, is interviewing the restaurant owners and the business owners and shoot videos of the parks and, the neighborhoods. And, you essentially become the expert of your community, and using and leveraging a Facebook group after you've got some YouTube videos out there saying, hey, this is the group for Boise, Idaho. So if you want to learn, the inside scoop on Boise, this is the group to join.
Yeah, come to my group. Yeah.
So you kind of leverage the technology, but you also get hyper local.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that in another way too. And just if you wanted to become the golf course community agent and know everything about every golf course,
it's vertically driven.
Area, or if Atlanta's a large equestrian community, so if you want to kind of focus on all of the horse farm type properties, so there's almost an unlimited supply of niches that people can go after.
That's right.
But, the local one makes it easier just because you can say, hey, I'm going to do my town, or, if you live in a huge neighborhood with 500 houses, you can almost never leave your neighborhood and still make a decent living.
That's exactly right. Well, I appreciate you coming, man. Thank you, man.
Pleasure was all mine.
What is, how can we find you? How can we help you? What's a good client of yours? Is it another realtor that maybe wants to move over? Is it somebody that's selling a house? Tell me a little bit how we can help you.
Well, from my recruiting aspect, a successful agent anywhere in America, and we're growing in 13 countries now too. So any agent who wants to learn how to leverage the things that they do, every day, and get stock in a internationally growing company, and monthly recurring income from overriding business like your broker does.
Yep.
So any successful agent anywhere in America would be someone I would love to talk to and share why EXP is an opportunity for them. And buyers and sellers. I've kind of focused, kind of like a laser beam. I live in downtown Woodstock, so anything in and around there. I actually created a channel on YouTube called Living in Woodstock, Georgia. So I'm practicing what I preach right now.
Nice.
I also have a channel. My name, John B. as in boy, Thomas Jr. Jr. JohnBThomasJr.com is sort of my personal branding, which I'm starting to
What's your
develop.
YouTube channel?
Well, it's Home Salesforce. Home Salesforce has been my moniker on YouTube as far as buying and selling homes and working with buyers and sellers. But I'm trying to focus on the living in Woodstock, GA is kind of the
Woodstock's
new one.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great place to live.
Second time in about 5 years that we've been in the top 20 towns in America to live in.
That's great.
Money Magazine.
Ackworth, have you been down to downtown Ackworth?
Oh yeah.
They're trying to recreate that, and they're doing a good job right now. It'll be in 5 years that place will not even be recognized from the 5 years before, and 10 years before especially.
And just one more thing before we go.
For sure.
And let me plug Joel's list
Please.
for local networkers. If you're
I know Joel.
Here in the Atlanta market, you need to subscribe to Joel's list. The world is opening up again here in early May to 2021, and Joel has the list of every networking opportunity that you can possibly go to in the Atlanta area. I mean, there were times where if I didn't have anything going on in the morning,
Joel's list. Yeah.
I would start my day with breakfast at the Chamber of Commerce in Johns Creek, have lunch in Roswell at some networking opportunity, 100%. And cocktails in Marietta, and come home with 100 business cards.
Yep.
And
my nightstand would be that's where business cards lived, and my wife knew not to touch them. So I'd gather them. Yeah, Joel, I know Joel. He's a client of ours.
Yeah.
Actually, known him for years. So I would do the same thing as you, and I would leave in the morning. I would do a networking group every morning, Monday through Friday. I would do a lunching about once a week, maybe twice a week, but really once a week. And then I would do 2-night networking, and I did it for years.
And I'll tell you the other secret that somebody turned me onto is when you get those business cards, you come home and you connect with those people on LinkedIn.
That's right.
I went from 100 connections on LinkedIn. I think I'm about 10,000 now.
I can tell you right now, you walked through the bullpen a minute ago, every one of them were on LinkedIn. Every one of them were banging her on LinkedIn. So that is an absolute fact. So because the business cards on the nightstand, if they stay there, they're not worth anything.
Exactly.
So you connect with them. I say connect with them on LinkedIn, then send them the email, and then you call them within 2 to 3 days. Absolutely, every time. Thanks for coming in. I really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you in the future. I'll come up to Woodstock. We'll have a drink at one of our clients' Fish Time up there. They've been a client of ours for years, so since they opened. So
Awesome.
I'll buy you a drink.
All right.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
Yeah, man. All you guys be kind to each other out there.
Peace out.